Update 15. The very long, very chatty Christmas post for everyone who was asking how it went. I wish I could say it was magical and perfect, but that was never going to happen with this many semi-feral children. The 23rd and 24th were intense because it marked 1 year since our mother left. The kids were clingy beyond belief and all tense and anxious. On the night of the 23rd, the 9-year-old and the 7-year-old absolutely refused to sleep. They were a nightmare, to the point that the 17-year-old offered to take the baby for the night. I put both girls in my bed and Matt slept on the floor in my room on the 9-year-old's mattress. I didn't sleep at all. I hated having the baby in another room and wanted to go get her, but I couldn't risk waking the girls, so I just lay there thinking, what the hell is my life? On the 24th everyone was a bit off and grumpy. They're usually in a bad mood on Christmas Eve because they brace themselves for disappointment, so this year it was that, plus all the feelings about the anniversary of our mom leaving, plus being in a new place. I'd told them all ahead of time that they would have presents because I wanted them to actually feel excited this year and not get overwhelmed on the day, but even so they weren't really themselves and definitely not in great moods. Then Christmas morning finally came, and seeing how excited and happy they were when they saw and opened their presents was honestly magical. I actually cried. I love these kids so much. They're so grateful for everything and it kills me. They each only had maybe 5 to 10 presents, but because there are so many of them it looked like a lot. Maddie, my sister, and I also bought a couple of small things for each other, which was really nice. The kids had a whole conversation about how it felt like a movie Christmas in real life. The 7-year-old almost died when she opened a box full of Bluey puddings, and the 9-year-old opened one present and just sat there for ages. I was like, hey, aren't you going to open the rest? She was just overwhelmed that the other presents were also for her. All day long the 7-year-old kept saying she couldn't believe Santa knew where we lived now. She also thinks Matt has Santa's phone number and sent him our new address, so he gets full credit. Santa also brought her a huge stuffed hippo that didn't leave her side all day. The older kids were happy in a quieter way, but you could tell they were kind of in awe. They all thanked Matt and me very sincerely, which is a complete 180 from "why don't you fuck off?" I stupidly joked, "Wow, you're all being really good today," and of course I completely jinxed it. Not long after that, things started going downhill. I went to take a shower and wash my hair, thinking, wow, today is actually going to be fun, I'll go get my baby back from my sister, and she immediately vomited in my hair because someone hadn't burped her properly. Meanwhile the rest of the kids descended into chaos. There were also tears of happiness, tears of sadness, and overwhelm everywhere. The 9-year-old broke one of her gifts in the first hour and was genuinely devastated. By lunchtime I was so exhausted that I literally took the baby and lay down for a nap with her, which I never do, but it was too much. I told Maddie to handle the rest because I needed a break from the noise and the crying, so off I went with a 3-month-old. Matt took all the kids outside. I gave myself the day off worrying about food and just told them they could eat whatever they wanted. We did pizza, nuggets, and things I know they like, set it up buffet style so they could eat when they wanted. Nothing fancy, because Christmas Day is not the day to introduce new foods. I was too tired and didn't want to cook. Matt had thin-sliced smoked salmon and other fish he likes, but no one else really ate it, and I didn't try to push it. By the afternoon they were completely overstimulated, even after Matt took them to the beach. They came back with even more energy, I swear. I almost lost my patience because they startled the baby awake about 5 times. And I was exhausted, telling them over and over to calm down and they just wouldn't. Maddie worked some kind of magic and they listened to her, which honestly annoyed me even more after they'd ignored me. Eventually the 2 little girls did some crafts Santa brought them, and the others calmed down a bit and watched movies. We played a couple of games later, which was actually nice. Then in the evening, emotions hit again. I don't even know how it happened, but we started making dinner and suddenly kids were disappearing into different rooms to cry. The baby peed all over the 13-year-old's new blanket because someone, Matt, didn't put her diaper on properly. Absolute juggling chaos. Especially because the 7-year-old, who is usually the emotional meltdown kid, was bouncing around the house deliriously happy. I was like, "Hi, child, could you maybe not jump with joy while your sister is hyperventilating, or at least do it somewhere else?" She had gone selectively deaf. The 12-year-old and the 9-year-old went to bed early because they were sad, and the rest of us got to watch the 7-year-old perform a play she'd apparently been putting together during everyone else's meltdowns. She said it was Christmas-themed, but it was actually about the Titanic, except she thinks it was hit by a tsunami. We watched another movie, and then at 11 at night the 7-year-old had a full meltdown because I had the audacity to say, "Hey kid, it's time for bed." She was furious that I was ending the day. I wrestled her into pajamas and eventually she fell asleep after narrating the entire day back to me as if I hadn't been there. She actually slept pretty well, only woke up a couple of times, and the baby slept 6 hours straight. So yeah, my mom didn't message. My oldest sister just said Merry Christmas, hoped I enjoyed the day, and sent me a gift card, so that was fine. I honestly expected way more drama on my phone, so I kept it turned off most of the day, and it was a pleasant surprise when I finally turned it back on. But part of me, stupidly, always hopes my mom will say something nice, like wishing her kids a Merry Christmas or something. I don't know why I ever think that might happen, but it still hurt not to hear anything from her. What's new, though? Every couple of days I also catch myself hoping she'll ask how the baby is, just so I can stop convincing myself that the baby would be dead if that woman hadn't taken her to the hospital. I guess I just want my mother to show the tiniest bit of care or concern, but she never will, so I need to get over that. On a more positive note, my sister had a brief conversation with one of my father's other children, and it turns out my father is in prison for grievous bodily harm. Apparently people thought it might have been for assaulting my mother, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Either way, I hope he stays there. If he's in prison, that should also mean my mother won't have any more children, because for some reason she only wants to reproduce with him specifically. Even though Christmas was a lot and I'm exhausted, it was mostly really lovely, and I have to remind myself that last Christmas my mom had just left, we had no money, there were no gifts, and my grandmother went to my aunt's house for the day. We couldn't go because there were too many of us, so I spent the day trying to stop the kids from staring out the window waiting for my mom to come back with presents, while I sent her about 100 messages. I didn't have Matt or my sister to help me then. When I think about that, I'm really happy with how this year turned out. The fact that we've moved still feels surreal. This might be the longest post I've ever written, sorry lol. If you made it this far, thank you, and I hope you had a good Christmas. Update 16. This isn't a particularly positive update, just the realistic chaos of our life right now, lol. It's still summer holidays, so the kids are home 24/7 being as chaotic as humanly possible, and honestly I think the anxiety about starting new schools is getting worse every day. They're basically feral right now. I can't catch a break. I deal with one kid and immediately another one starts, then another, and it genuinely never ends, day or night. The baby has stopped sleeping so much, so she needs more attention too. I'm typing this in the middle of the night while holding her, because she wakes up every time I try to put her down, so I've given up. My sister works away, so she's here 1 week and gone the next. When she's here, everything is so much easier. She takes the kids out and away from me so I can breathe. I don't go out much except for baby or kid appointments, which also never seem to end, because it's too hot for the baby and just thinking about organizing everyone to leave the house makes me nauseous. Usually I can manage a walk in the morning or evening with the baby, and most of the time I take the 7-year-old, the 9-year-old, and the 12-year-old, and they play at the park near our house. Well, the 12-year-old skates. He would probably be offended if I said he was playing. I don't go much farther than that right now unless the kids are being good and my sister is here, in which case she takes them and that becomes my recovery time. I promise I still love them, but dear God, I cannot wait for school to start. The 12-year-old goes skating with some neighborhood kids pretty often. Obviously I don't need to supervise him closely anymore, I just tell him to be home before dark, and we'll see if he listens. I try to pick my battles with him, but Matt is very set on the whole 3 strikes and you're grounded approach. I'm not sure I love that, because the last thing I need is a grounded preteen stuck at home all day annoying everyone else. Otherwise, he's doing pretty well. He can be a little asshole, but compared to the girls, he's my angel. The little ones mostly play at home unless one of the older girls takes them to the park. Matt bought some big plastic tubs from Kmart, and the girls fill them with water and play Barbie pool, or Barbie ship hit by a tsunami, or whatever else they come up with. That keeps them entertained for hours. The rest of the time they mostly just terrorize me and each other. Most days the 9-year-old is in trouble for doing something to the 7-year-old. I try to keep them separated, but apparently they'd rather rip each other's hair out than play alone. The 7-year-old has been having a lot of night terrors and other issues. Right now it's all making life a lot more stressful, but none of it is really their fault. The 13-year-old is honestly the hardest at the moment. Half the time I can't even look at her without her going from 0 to 1,000. She's incredibly up and down. Sometimes she goes out with the 12-year-old, but that usually ends in an argument. Yesterday I completely ran out of patience and we didn't let her go out because of how she was treating her brother, and looking back, it was probably too much for both Matt and me to be standing there lecturing her at the same time. She completely lost it, called us dictators, and said she could go out whenever she wanted. In the end she stayed home like she was told. She loves to argue about everything, but when it actually comes down to it, she doesn't rebel that much. We've got the birthdays of the 4 youngest coming up soon, so I asked them what they want to do as their special thing. The 13-year-old said she wants to go out to eat with just me. I was like, what? So maybe she does like me after all, or maybe she just wants to yell at me in public, lol. The 17-year-old is basically my best friend right now and she's completely in love with the baby, so she's a massive help there. But she's a nightmare with the other kids. She says she's helping, but then goes around smacking them and being ridiculously strict, which just creates way more drama for me. I keep telling her I don't need her help with discipline, and she keeps saying yes you do, I'm basically an adult, I can help like Maddie, the older sister. And I'm like, thanks but no thanks. A couple of days ago the 7-year-old threw the TV remote at the 17-year-old and it hit the baby instead, and the 17-year-old smacked the 7-year-old. Then she brought me 2 screaming, crying kids and expected me to fix it. It took me forever to calm them both down, and I was furious with her. She decided I was only mad because I'm too protective of the 7-year-old, which sent me into a rage, and I told her if she ever hits my child again I will absolutely lose my mind. The hard part is that I know exactly how her brain works, because I was exactly the same. It takes everything in me not to hit the kids sometimes. The number of times I almost do is honestly terrifying, especially now with the constant overstimulation and bad behavior. I know the 17-year-old just doesn't have the level of self-control or motivation that I do. So while I don't excuse it, I also don't fully blame her, because violence was always normal for us. I understand her perspective, even if I don't agree with it. From her point of view, I'm putting in all this effort into discipline that takes forever and doesn't have immediate results, so she thinks I'm an idiot, because she gives a smack and instantly gets a remorseful kid. She doesn't understand that it's not good in the long run. When I tried to explain that, she told me that I, and literally all the older siblings, turned out fine even though we had it way worse. I told her we are not fine, and the fact that my brain still tells me to hit children and I have to fight that urge every day is proof of that. She told me maybe I should listen to my brain instead of my heart, and that I have guilt issues. I was like, okay, thank you very much, you little asshole. I told her that if she can't understand this, she needs to stay away from the kids until she can. I made her apologize to the 7-year-old, which was like getting blood from a stone. She was so angry with me that she ended up crying, and then we had the longest, deepest conversation, and I think we're okay again. It's weird now. She gets extremely angry when I go into mom mode with her, but I've noticed that if I keep pushing and don't back down, we usually get to a point where she opens up. I don't know what I'll do if she hits one of them again, so I'm really hoping she doesn't. If I can just get everyone through until school starts, I think life will be a lot easier for all of us. Everyone is on a waiting list for in-person therapy. 3 out of 5 refused, but I told them it's not negotiable. I'm really anxious for it to start and to see if we can finally make some progress, because it feels like we've hit a wall with certain things. Honestly, this is just a snapshot of the chaos right now. I know at this point I'm basically just venting here, lol, but it helps to get it out, and I always get really good advice. And don't worry, I haven't completely lost my mind and I don't hate my life. I'm just living in the town of constant complaints for now. I keep telling myself it's temporary and that school will be my lifeline. 3.5 weeks to go. Update 17. Hi. We've got the 4 younger kids' birthdays coming up between January 25th and February 14th, and I thought I'd ask if anyone has ideas for things we could do. They've never really had birthday celebrations before, so they'd honestly be happy with anything, but I want it to feel special while also keeping it affordable enough that we can do something similar every year without stressing ourselves out financially. I don't want to set crazy expectations. Right now, the idea is a few presents, a cake, and a one-on-one outing with me, or with Matt, or with both of us if they want, to do something special. Next year, once they've made friends here, we can do something with friends. I've asked them what they'd like. The 13-year-old wants to go out to eat with just me, which is fine. The others aren't really sure yet. The little ones are still riding the Christmas high when it comes to gifts. We're thinking that if we spend less on the younger two, we can use more of the budget for the older two. I feel a bit guilty about that, but I know the younger ones won't really care or notice, while it will mean a lot more to the teenagers to get things they genuinely want. The 7-year-old doesn't even know what she wants. We have a neighbor who's offered me all her daughter's old things for free because they're making room for new Christmas stuff, all in really good condition and things the 7-year-old would love, like a dollhouse with a whole bag of figures. Matt also found a bike really cheap on Facebook and bought it for the 9-year-old, because we know she wants one. She hasn't asked outright, but it's obvious. He's just going to put a new bell on it and she's going to love it. If I get her a couple of other small things, I think she'll be thrilled and we'll have spent almost nothing, which means I can use more of the money for the 13-year-old and the 12-year-old. The 13-year-old wants an iPhone, and I've been really unsure about that, but if we can get a second-hand one, I'll probably do it. I don't want her starting at a new school feeling like the weird kid. The 12-year-old, I think, wants to go to the movies, for the first time in his life. When I asked about presents, he said, I already got heaps at Christmas, so he didn't give me many ideas, but I have a couple of things in mind that he'd like. I have no idea where to take the 7 and 9-year-olds for an outing they'd enjoy. The 7-year-old just wants to stay home and play Jelly Monsters on my bed, and I'm like, kid, we can do something new and fun. But her birthday is the last one, so I'm hoping she'll get inspired by what the others do. I don't really know what I'm doing, so any ideas, or anything I could do to make their birthdays feel extra special, would be really appreciated. I'm a bit overwhelmed because birthdays just didn't exist in our family. The last time anyone in real life said happy birthday to me was my teacher when I was 15. My mother didn't believe in celebrating people for being born, except for herself and my father. If we ever mentioned birthdays, she'd say that if we wanted to celebrate someone, we could celebrate her, since she did all the hard work. Some of her most abusive moments happened on other people's birthdays, even when the kid didn't even know it was their birthday. So the kids are going to love whatever we do, but I really want them to feel genuinely special. And if I'm being unreasonable thinking we can spend more on the older two, tell me, but I honestly think it makes sense. Update 18. I really want to say thank you to everyone for their kindness and advice on my posts. Sorry I don't reply to everyone, but I promise I read everything, and I really appreciate the time people take to read the mess I write and to comment or message me. I only post on my own profile now, so only people who follow me and actually care see it, and even then, every time I post I think, surely no one cares anymore. But you do, and that's honestly wild to me. If I sent a paragraph about one of the kids to my parents, they wouldn't read it. Writing here helps me organize my thoughts. It's like a diary or something. The number of times I start writing some nonsense and it makes me realize I'm being dramatic or spiraling is honestly funny. Having outside perspective is really good for me when I'm this deep in it. I think it's good for Matt too, because if I didn't write all this here, I'd be dumping it all on him and he'd be sick of me very quickly, lol. I can't thank you all enough. And if you ever get sick of the updates, tell me and I'll keep my thoughts in the drafts where all the truly unhinged stuff lives. Update 19. I don't really know what this post is, honestly. I guess it's a vent, because we've had a couple of really hard days and I'm deep in my own head right now. Apparently Reddit is my coping mechanism, like a diary that talks back, lol. The 14-year-old got a phone for her birthday. She loves it and says it's the best gift she's ever had. Matt put some restrictions on it and we take it away at night, because I don't want her completely glued to it. The first night I took it, she complained a lot, and I told her I'm not going to fight with her about this every single night, and that if she did it again tomorrow, we'd rethink the whole phone situation. The next day she talked a lot with Maddie, my older sister, because she didn't want to talk to me, but the night after that she came and handed me the phone before I even asked. After that, everything seemed fine with the phone. I thought we were good. We talked things through and wrote the rules down so they were clear in black and white. She was behaving pretty well and was off my problem radar until she started a fight with the 17-year-old. It carried on over messages and went way too far. She made the 17-year-old cry and then deleted her messages, which was honestly the dumbest thing in the world, because I could just read everything on the 17-year-old's phone and see exactly what she'd said. I was so fed up that I took her phone and told her I'd talk to Matt about when she might get it back. She tried everything she could think of to get it returned, but I didn't budge. Unfair, supposedly, because she'd just gotten it for her birthday, but I don't care if you got it 5 minutes ago. If you use it to say horrible things you wouldn't have the guts to say in person, then it's gone. I got the classic "you're not my mom," and I replied that I don't care whether I'm her mom, her sister, or her third cousin twice removed, I'm responsible for her, so tough luck. She was furious. We talked about it 1,000 times and got nowhere. I was completely over it and had a million other things to do, so I let it go and let her be angry instead of trying to fix it. The next day I had a rare moment of peace without the baby or the little ones, and I was about to go talk to Matt about the phone when the 14-year-old walked into my bedroom holding a belt and told me to hit her with it so she could get her phone back. Like, I don't like your punishments, I just want you to hit me and leave me alone. This isn't actually the first time something like this has happened. A year ago, several of the kids used to tell me to hit them when I started doing more normal parenting stuff and they hated it and were really confused. When I told them they couldn't do something, they'd say, "Why aren't you hitting me if you're mad at me?" We'd go in circles with me saying I wasn't angry with them, and them saying, "Then why can't I go out?" And I'd explain it was because of whatever reason, or because it was late and I wanted them in bed, or something like that. They didn't understand boundaries without anger. But this time was different, and it shocked me deeply, especially because it had been a long time since anyone said anything like that. I'm constantly talking about not hitting and trying to stop physical stuff every day, so I honestly don't know what world she thought I'd say okay, hand me the belt, and forget everything I've ever said about violence not solving problems. I took the belt from her and told her I wasn't going to hit her with anything. We went back and forth until she eventually started crying from frustration because I kept saying no. She was yelling at me, having a full meltdown, saying I never do what she wants. I was getting angry and knew I was about to lose it, so I walked away and left her in my room. I was trying to create space so we could both calm down. But she followed me, still yelling, and in the middle of it we ended up back in my room again. Matt got involved, which didn't help, because he was struggling not to get angry about the way she was talking to me. He went into full dad voice, which is scary and works on the other kids, but turns the 14-year-old into a gray rock. I had to tell him to leave, because as much as she was driving me insane, I'd rather she yell at me than shut down completely. I knew we needed to get it out, because we'd had really bad vibes with her for months. I told Matt to leave and to keep the other kids away, because we didn't need interruptions. After what felt like forever, I tried not to, but I kind of lost it. I yelled back at her and told her to stop acting so fucking crazy and that she wasn't getting the phone back at all if she didn't stop screaming and crying. Obviously you can't handle having a phone if you react like this over it. Honestly, I was being a bitch at that point, because I knew it wasn't just about the phone, it was a pile of built-up stuff. I felt myself right on the edge of grabbing onto power and wanting to pull the classic "when I was your age I had it worse" speech, but I remind myself multiple times a day not to do that, so I fought the urge. I noticed how harsh I was being, and that stopped me. I had to remind myself that this kid was literally asking me to hit her with a belt and I was trying to stay regulated. She's been so intense lately that I go into situations already half out of patience, so I sat down on the bed while she kept screaming. I tried, as best I could, to step back from my anger and think about how to fix this without making it worse. The way she was acting honestly reminded me so much of dealing with the 7-year-old. Update 19, continued. So I thought maybe I needed to try treating her the way I treat the 7-year-old, which is literally to hold her until she calms down, even if she's furious with me. With the older kids that feels a lot more uncomfortable, but it seemed worth trying before I completely ruined things with her and made her stop coming to me altogether. So I pulled her onto my lap and hugged her. It was incredibly awkward at first, but it was the only thing I had in that moment. She fought it for about a minute and told me to let her go. I didn't, and eventually she stopped fighting, relaxed, and started crying, then said she was angry with me, but in a sad way, not a furious one. I told her I knew, but nothing she said would ever make me hit her. I apologized for yelling. She cried and cried like she'd been holding it in for ages. She felt so small in my arms, and her crying was so heartbreaking. She smelled like my body spray, which hit me hard, because she's been acting like she hates me, but she still uses my things because she wants to smell like me. That's when I started crying too. She kept saying she wanted her phone, and I felt awful, but I still wasn't going to say yes. I just kept repeating that we'd talk about it later, and that I needed to speak to Matt first. Honestly, I was relieved to feel bad about it, because lately I'd felt kind of numb when I had to discipline her. Feeling bad meant I cared again, which sounds ridiculous, but it mattered. I need to stop writing because this is getting long and rambling, but we ended things in a pretty good place. For the first time in a long while, I feel like we actually connected and understood each other. We agreed to disagree on some things, but we also agreed on things we both need to work on. I think I need to be more proactively affectionate with her. I usually let the older kids come to me, but I'm realizing I need to initiate more. I don't think the 14-year-old knows how to come and say, "I'm sad, I need a hug," and it must be hard when the younger kids are always physically glued to me. I'm going to try harder to be more openly loving and to remind myself that she's still a child and needs more patience than I expect from her. I keep expecting her to be more mature because I was at her age, but I have to stop doing that. I didn't have anyone parenting me. I could do whatever I wanted, so of course I wasn't having meltdowns over having my phone taken away at night. My mother wouldn't have cared if I'd started an OnlyFans at 14, let alone told me I needed sleep. So yes, I didn't act like her, but it's actually good that she's different and more normal. After all of that, I was left feeling anxious, because out of everything the kids do on a daily basis, none of them had ever literally begged me to hurt them the way she did. That really messed with me. It made me feel like I need to be doing more for her. We're still waiting on therapy, but I've already told Matt that right now she needs to be our priority, because she's really flown under the radar, and I think there's a lot more going on in her head than we realized. We've always assumed the ones suffering the most are the 17-year-old and the 7-year-old, but I'm starting to realize that they just express it more. Now I'm spiraling, wondering if the others are actually worse on the inside. I'm also extremely anxious lately. I panic if I don't have the baby with me and she cries. I can't trust anyone else with her when she's upset. My brain is convinced someone will hurt her to make her stop crying. When Matt stayed home with the kids while I took the 10-year-old out, which still feels weird to write after her birthday, I was having a great time, but my head kept going. Right now he could be hurting the baby while I'm sitting here laughing and eating frozen yogurt. I really need to work on my own stuff. That said, life is still mostly good. This probably sounds strange, but so many small things make me happy now. I love putting the kids to bed and then just being able to do normal things like showering or doing laundry without worrying that my parents or my grandmother might be around. Before, the house could explode into screaming fights or something horrible at any moment without warning. Now the chaos comes from kids, not toxic adults and abuse, and that feels oddly peaceful. Having clean clothes and kids who feel safe enough to get out of bed and ask me for things makes me happy. So I don't know if this makes sense, but I feel extremely anxious and extremely relaxed at the same time. I said I'd stop and then kept going forever. Thank you if you read this far, and sorry for the massive vent. Thanks for sticking with my story. I always wonder why I post this stuff, but this situation hit me so hard that I needed to get it out and see if anyone had thoughts. I've already talked to my therapist and might try to have more sessions, because I don't want to be a bundle of anxiety and I want to be able to leave the baby without having a mental breakdown. I also still don't know what to do about the phone. It's already so much drama, and I don't feel like I can just never give it back, because that feels cruel. I don't know. Help. The kids have started school, and obviously that's been a roller coaster with so many of them and so many different emotions, but overall it's been okay so far, except for the 7-year-old, who is absolutely not happy about it yet, but it's only been a few days. Also, thank you 1,000 times for the birthday ideas. I used a bunch of them and I'll post once we've had the last birthday. I'm finishing this up exhausted, awake with the baby, so as always, excuse my tired rambling. Update 20. It's Saturday morning, and I'm trying to forget that my oldest sister is once again being awful and focus on real life instead of the drama she creates from the other side of the country. The 14-year-old is okay. She was a bit sad, but she's fine now. Real life has actually been pretty good. 3 of the kids have started extracurricular activities, which makes me so happy, because we never got to do anything like that growing up. Matt was determined that the little ones would start a kids' surf program, so he organized that. The 8-year-old isn't going yet, but she will once everything else settles enough to add something new. The 7-year-old signed herself up for things without us even saying anything. I've also started going to baby yoga, which is something I never in a million years thought I'd be doing. I met a mom at the park who suggested it, and then she didn't even show up that day, but it turns out I absolutely love it and look forward to it every week. I've met some really lovely moms there, and they're fairly young, so I don't feel quite as much like a total outsider as I do with the school moms. I've never really been around people where I feel like we're on the same level, if that makes sense. Either they're much older and I feel like a child, or they're my age but feel like children to me because they have about 1% of the responsibility I do. So it's been really nice to be able to talk to people my own age and deal with the same kinds of things. I show up and they're all like, "How have you slept this week? Is she doing this yet? Is she doing that yet?" And it makes me feel so much less alone. The baby is a bit behind on some milestones because she was premature, and I also feel really guilty because most of them don't know my real situation and I let them believe that I gave birth to her. I feel like I'm lying. One of them told me she was so jealous of how fast my body bounced back, and I still feel awful for not telling her the truth. I don't want to explain it in front of everyone and make things awkward, and I don't want the attention. Some of them do know because I've talked to them privately, but I'll try to tell the rest soon. It just gets harder the longer I leave it. But I love it so much, and I might even start doing regular adult yoga too. I think I'd enjoy it. It's expensive, but Matt wants me to have something that's just for me, so he says the cost doesn't matter and we'll adjust the budget. I'm also going to do an online course, I don't know what in yet, but definitely something so I can build a skill and maybe get a decent job when the baby is older. One of the kids caught gastro at school and brought it home to generously share with half the family. It was awful, but we survived. It was genuinely hell because there was a kid vomiting literally 24/7, and I caught it too, so I felt like death. A couple of nights ago I went to check on the younger girls and found the 10-year-old awake long after bedtime. I asked what was wrong and she told me that the tops of her feet and her hands always hurt when she goes to bed, and sometimes it takes her ages to fall asleep. Super random, but way too specific to be made up. I asked her a lot of questions and she was very calm about it, said it always happens, she just never got up to tell anyone before. I believe her. I checked again half an hour later and she said they still hurt, so I gave her pain relief and I'm taking her to the doctor as soon as possible. Very strange. Aside from that, she's been doing really well lately. She stopped picking on her little sister. I can't say it was my discipline because I honestly don't think that worked at all. I think she just decided to be kind. She's not perfect, but she's so much better and not awful anymore. She already has good friends at school, and her teacher said she's adapted really quickly. Most of them are a bit behind at school, but she's actually above average. She's nothing like we were. She's incredibly smart. In general, she's the one doing the best overall. She eats well, sleeps well, basically no major issues. The 13-year-old is the same as ever, class clown energy. I told his teacher to be honest if he was being a menace, but she said he's been fine and his behavior is good. I'm not holding my breath that it'll last, but I'll take it. He's got some neighborhood friends he skates with. He's a bit harder than his sister because his attitude is exhausting, and sometimes we have to go pick him up by car, but nothing terrible. The 14-year-old, obviously, we've had some issues, and I'm still really worried about her since the belt incident. Things have been better between us since then. She's supposed to start therapy in a couple of weeks. She likes school and seems to have found a little group already, and she's been invited to a birthday and went to a friend's house for dinner. I try to find time for her whenever I can, and lately that's meant taking her grocery shopping with me. It helps our relationship, and she's less volatile, and she genuinely loves going and looks forward to it. She doesn't eat well, so it's also a way to try to get her more interested in food and involved. She's never eaten well, it's not new, I'm just more aware of it now. Same with the 8-year-old. I swear she doesn't even feel hunger. She eats a couple of spoonfuls of rice and says she's done, but if I insist she'll eat a reasonable amount. I discovered she likes empanadas and little pies, so I make those and she eats loads of things in pastry that she wouldn't touch otherwise. She's had a rough time since starting school. It was horrible at first, full-on war every morning. She went into school crying and came out crying. Then it got a bit better, she started leaving chatting with another girl and smiling. Her teacher said she's doing much better now and plays with several kids instead of just sitting with the teacher. I still spend most of the day thinking about picking her up, and we still have tears about school, but I think we're moving forward. Her sleep is better than it was, but she still has nightmares a lot. Matt is spending a lot of time helping her catch up with school, and sometimes if she wakes from a bad dream, he reads to her at 3 in the morning and I just cry watching it. She's the sweetest kid. The things she says are so funny and tender, and she's my little best friend. The 17-year-old is doing really well. She had a phase of missing the old house, school, and friends, but it passed, and now she's enjoying school and has a group of friends she acts like she's known forever. Sometimes she goes overboard with big plans, but I like seeing her with, I don't know, a zest for life. Before, she was a total nightmare and I literally told her that, and she said yeah, my life sucked. Now she sees more opportunities here and her school is better, and she says things like I'm going to get a weekend job and a car and my friends and I will move in together when I finish school, blah blah, and I'm like yeah okay, we'll see, lol. But it's good that she's excited about her life. It's not that I want her to work, because she really needs to focus on school since she has some catching up to do. But I also know I can't really stop a 17-year-old with that kind of personality, because she'll just tell me to fuck off. All I can do is suggest things indirectly and hope that somewhere in her brain it lands and she decides it was her own idea, which is literally my only hope. The baby is perfect. She's a tiny ray of sunshine and I still can't quite believe she's real. I genuinely don't understand how two absolute pieces of trash like my parents could create a baby this perfect. The more I think about it the less sense it makes, but they did, and honestly I'm so grateful for her. She's been incredibly healing for me and for everyone. We talk about it a lot, it's been so good for the kids to have a baby in the house. They're all so gentle and sweet with her, and I especially love watching my little brother with her, he's so careful. I always worried that statistically at least one of the kids would end up repeating the cycle of abuse, but watching them with the baby makes me think maybe they'll all be okay. Obviously she's a lot of work and I'm not grateful every single second of the day, but I can't imagine not having her. We're going to start introducing real food when the doctor says it's time. I hadn't really thought about it, and at her last appointment he mentioned it and I was like, what? I didn't realize babies have to start eating solids so soon. I swear the other kids only had milk until at least a year or a year and a half. I cried the whole drive home because I was like, how the hell do I do so much baby research and not realize that she'll need food soon? That feels so basic, and there I was thinking we had another year of just milk. I had a full meltdown with Matt and he was like, relax, that's what the doctor is for. Yeah, but I don't want a doctor to have to tell me to feed my baby, that feels awful. Anyway, he said she can't yet because she doesn't sit up and doesn't have good neck control, so when she does we'll start, but I need time to research because I don't feel ready. We're still super busy and the days go by insanely fast. My older sister is kind of funny now that she's more used to the kids and has been living with us for a few months. She's like my hype woman or something. I'll say something to the kids and she'll be in the background basically repeating what I said but funnier and with zero tolerance for their nonsense. They all come crying to me when she yells at them, but it works and she doesn't cross the line. The 13-year-old gave me attitude recently and my sister was like, who do you think you're talking to? Chased him around the house and ended up sitting on him and tickling him. He was yelling that he was sorry and also laughing, but if she'd kept going she would have killed him and he would have cried, and then it would have been on me to be the nice one and comfort him, because her response is usually, if you hadn't acted like an idiot I wouldn't have had to make you cry. She's like the female version of Matt but way less nurturing, lol. At least Matt is good at comforting the kids. But for now everything works. I feel supported but also clearly in charge, which is what I wanted, because I'm not going to do most of the parenting while everyone else gets to be the fun ones and I'm stuck being the bad guy. Matt wants me to go out, like actually go out. I don't really want to, but he'll probably end up telling me I have to at least once. He's read too much parenting stuff and now he hits me with try it once and if you don't like it you don't have to do it again, thanks mate. Or maybe I just won't do it, because I already told you I don't want to. I've gone out exactly once in my life, to a dance, like a prom type thing, when I was 16, and all I know is that I came back to hell. My little sister was about 3, locked in my bedroom, asleep on the floor in a puddle of her own pee, in the dark because she was scared. She was too small to climb into my bed because I had 2 mattresses stacked, so she must have cried until she fell asleep on the floor. I had literally left her a diaper and pajamas, all my mother had to do was put them on her and put her in bed, but she couldn't be bothered. The other kids were still awake and a couple weren't even home because they'd gone to a friend's house, and it was normal that we wouldn't call or go get them until the next morning. I never went out again, because my mother told me that if I ever did, my little sister wouldn't be there when I got back. So yeah, going out in the afternoon or at night gives me massive anxiety and I don't know if I can handle that. Being away when I went to see the baby in the hospital was already hard enough. I don't know if I can cope with the idea of going out to have fun and trusting that everything will be okay. Matt is not going to shut up about it. So I'll probably do it just to get him to stop. I'm still dealing with all the general anxiety I talked about last time, but my therapist is helping more or less, and honestly it's probably just a matter of time. I'm still getting used to things being more stable, but at the same time there's so much new stuff, kids with activities and routines and schedules, and keeping track of everything is actually a huge job. It's honestly much easier to just let them run wild like animals, lol. Today the girls want to watch Wicked because everyone at school is talking about it and they feel left out, so that's the plan, and I really hope they actually sit through the whole movie, because that kind of peace on a Saturday would be a dream. Update 21. Hi, I am losing my mind. I finally pushed through my anxiety and started trying to take a bit of time for myself, and it was actually going pretty well. I was getting better at genuinely enjoying myself and feeling less uncomfortable about being gone for an hour or a few hours. Then I had almost a full day to myself because the teenagers had plans. The 14-year-old and the 13-year-old became friends with some kids a couple of streets away and they go out together, which honestly makes me so happy because suddenly they're best friends and I love that, and Maddie, my older sister, said she would stay with the little ones. I am still recovering from the absolute fucking disaster that turned into while I was gone. The 8-year-old got second-degree sunburn because they left her in the backyard pool without sunscreen. It was so bad I had to take her to the hospital to be checked. She was shaking violently and what looked like a very high fever, and her entire back and shoulders were horribly burned. Honestly, her whole body was basically burned, but the worst areas were her back and shoulders. They put in 4 in to hydrate her and gave us a bunch of creams, and I bought electrolytes. There wasn't much they could do except tell me how to keep her as comfortable as possible while she healed. Then I had her screaming and crying because she couldn't sleep. She finally slept after painkillers and a cool bath, but she woke up 1,000 times and I didn't sleep at all. The next few days were also awful. Her blisters burst, it itched like crazy, it got infected and she needed antibiotics. We slept barely at all. She was shirtless for days and now only wants my t-shirts because they're big and comfortable. She's much better now, we're sleeping again and she's not miserable all the time, but she's still not fully healed and I think it's going to leave some scarring. Sunburn is hell as an adult, but this bad on a child is on another level. I honestly feel like I have secondhand PTSD or something and I feel so guilty about everything. I'm still so angry because I told them 1,000 times to make sure she wore the UV shirt and sunscreen. They asked her to put it on and she was distracted or didn't listen, because she's 8, and my sister was basically like, okay, then it's your problem if you get burned. Apparently Matt was busy with the baby and missed all of it, but he says he assumed my sister had put sunscreen on her. I don't know, whatever, I don't know, but I've been so angry and had a massive fight with my sister because she thought Matt had done it, and then the 10-year-old tells me what was actually said and done, like you really told an 8-year-old, well, it's your problem. Kids don't respond to that kind of shit. I don't even ask them, I just start slathering sunscreen on them, and if they complain, too bad. With the older ones it's their responsibility, but even then I remind them 1,000 times. The 10-year-old got a bit burned but not badly because she wasn't outside long. I put aloe on her and she's fine. But my sister made me so angry I almost gave her a black eye, because she was basically like, well, next time she'll learn. I completely lost it and Matt had to physically separate us. Thank God he went back to work the next day, because I swear I would have snapped if she hadn't shut up and started acting remorseful or taking some responsibility. I haven't talked to her much this week, but she did message me to apologize. I think Matt told her the truth. We'll be okay, but if she brings it up and starts talking shit again, I don't know if I'll be able to be the adult. Like, why do I spend my life talking about sunscreen and everyone's like yeah, and the second I leave they all lose their fucking neurons. I have like 10 different sunscreens in a box by the door, everyone is told 1,000 times to use them, everyone has heard 1,000 times that the girls need UV shirts and hats if they're going to be outside. But apparently my sister just doesn't think about it because we got burned as kids and that was just life and you learn to take care of yourself, which is such a stupid, harmful mindset. And for how long the 8-year-old was outside, Matt also should have thought she'd need more sunscreen even if my sister had put some on at the start. I barely let them go outside at midday because the UV is like 10. He's apologized 1,000 times and offered to stay up with her at night and do all the creams and everything. But surprise surprise, she only wants me. Lots of crying of I want you to hold me but also not wanting to be touched because it hurts. The only solution is that I lie down and she lies on top of me like a sloth on a branch, and after a while she says my body is too warm and it hurts. Matt has been helping with the baby and the other kids, but I kind of shut down and honestly had a day of I don't want you to help, I want to be alone and do everything myself, like I want you to go away. I even started telling him to look for a job out of town like my sister, which obviously I didn't mean, lol. Anyway, we talked. I didn't want to, he made me, and yeah, it was necessary. I was being difficult and exhausting, but I was too tired and angry, and we got through it. Now I'm not as cold and I'm letting him help again. The 17-year-old is my new best friend, I guess, because she's had even more attitude than me this week with Maddie and has been talking a lot of shit about what she'll say to her when she's back. We've been talking about it constantly and I had to tell her I love venting with you but we need to dial it back a bit. She gives me advice all the time, and at one point she crossed a line with Maddie and I had to stop her and tell her to knock it off, and she goes, I know you're trying to do the whole united front thing, but you don't have to with me, I'm almost 18. I'm not trying to do a united front. I'm telling you that you don't need to be such a monster, and you're not 18 for another 7 months. It's been the week from hell, and my little walk to Kmart, my stroll, and my smoothie were not worth it. I was literally lying in the park trying to convince myself not to go back home. And maybe I would have taken her out of the sun sooner, with just a normal sunburn to be annoyed about instead of completely losing my mind. Edit, I feel stupid even having to ask this, but can someone tell me what's normal or expected to do or buy for kids at Easter, especially in Australia? I've been way too busy to think about Easter, and now I'm panicking and feel like I need to go buy things for the kids. I'm stressed about them going back to school and other kids talking about what they got or what they did for Easter, and mine feeling sad because they didn't have anything. Do I buy a bunch of eggs and hide them for an egg hunt, or what's the usual thing? Do teenagers get stuff too, or is it just for the little ones? Update 22, sorry. I forgot to post the Easter update. I started writing it and then never finished or posted it because a million things happened with the kids and a teething baby, so here's basically everything since then. Everyone I asked here basically said to do an egg basket, so that's what I did, and I also bought everyone a big chocolate egg. On top of that, our lovely ancient neighbor, who is honestly an angel, brought chocolate bunnies for everyone for the egg hunt. I told the teenagers not to grab the obvious ones and to let the two youngest find them. The 17-year-old didn't want to join in, which was expected, but the others did, which honestly surprised me a bit. 5 seconds into the egg hunt, the 8-year-old said no, that she didn't want to do it, and sat down crying, insisting she wouldn't find any. I think she gets intimidated by the other kids and sees it as conflict or competition and just hates it. The 17-year-old immediately said she'd be on her team and managed to get her to look for a few. The others had already found most of them, but she did find a couple. I don't think she enjoyed it, to be honest, and she's not a big eater anyway, so after one small chocolate egg she was done and basically withdrawn for the rest of the day. I tried to find something she'd enjoy, but she was in full clingy mode and nothing interested her. She basically turns into a zombie and doesn't want to do anything except be my shadow or Matt's, and cries if she can't be with one of us. That's pretty much the only response we get to anything when she's in that state. She didn't want to decorate her own egg basket, didn't want to do Easter crafts, basically nothing. She went for a walk with us but didn't talk, and Matt carried her on his shoulders most of the time. Then she just sat watching TV while everyone else played board games, full depressed mode. The next morning she was more herself and played with the little Easter chicks I bought her, and she's now completely obsessed with them and has built them a house out of toilet paper rolls and egg cartons. She has a toy basket with a few actual toys, some rocks and sticks, a little aluminum cup from an old candle from the old house, a very faded, gross pillowcase she uses as a bag because she refuses to use a real one, and don't you dare offend her by offering one, and my mother's mascara from like 2009. She is such a weird kid, but at this point I'm like whatever, do what you want as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else. In the car, completely out of nowhere, she started talking about mom and dad and saying she was worried they didn't get chocolate for Easter. The other kids immediately piled on her and wouldn't stop, and I had to pull the car over and yell at them. I turned around and went home because I wasn't taking them out after that. We talked it through later and ended up okay, but Matt was furious and told them that the next time they gang up on their little sister, they lose privileges. I know in their own messed up way they're trying to protect her because they don't want her worrying about our shitty parents and they want her to know they suck, but obviously everyone yelling at her is not going to help. She barely spoke the rest of the day after that. I was angry with them, but I tried not to be too much. This is one of those moments where I suddenly feel very strongly that they are my siblings and she is my child, and I want to tell them to shut the hell up, but obviously I would never say that. It took me a bit to be okay with the fact that she didn't enjoy Easter at all. If I think about it too much, I get sad, because I want all of them to have good memories of holidays, but she's only going to remember crying and not taking part in anything, and that's depressing. I really hope she enjoys it next year. The others, in general, did. Yes, they did enjoy it, and they were pretty excited to do real Easter things for the first time. Since then we've been doing okay and everyone is fine. 3 of the kids are in therapy and that's been mixed, 2 are doing well, and with the other 2 it's just not a good fit right now, so we paused and we'll reassess in the future. Aside from that, they've been pretty wild in general, but they're settled at school and everything, and we haven't had any major drama, just normal-sized drama, lol. The 13-year-old is absolutely not in a do-what-I'm-told phase, so instead of being super controlling, we're trying to give him the feeling that he has some freedom while still keeping things under control. He hates being told to go to bed. We used to say bed and lights out at 9:30, knowing it would really end up being closer to 10 after the arguing. We changed tactics, and now we just say he needs to be in his room around 9, without mentioning bed at all, and guess who's been asleep by about 9:20 most nights, because there's nothing to do in his room and he doesn't have electronics anyway, so he just lies down and doesn't feel like we're ordering him. He can be a pain in the ass, but sometimes he's the sweetest kid, and I know he's not being difficult on purpose. With my older sister we're okay, but things are still a bit tense since the sunburn incident. There's not much to say, and I think it's just time. Obviously she hasn't babysat since then, but she has done things with the teenagers, like taking them out for walks sometimes. My mom is at my grandmother's house and it seems like she had a brief moment of realizing that we really left and was sad for about a second. She even asked me some things about the baby, and now she's back to being awful again anyway. Matt can drop the kids off at school now, and the 8-year-old has been fine with that after the first few times when she was a bit sad because she likes it when I take her, but she's okay now, except for when another kid's mom told her, "Wow, you look a lot like your dad," and she came home crying because some lady said she looks like a boy, lol, and I think Matt almost cried because someone assumed he was her dad. She actually prefers it when people say he looks too young to have a child, but she looks about 4 and he obviously looks older than her, so people jump straight to dad, lol. We bought the little one a huge pregnancy pillow because someone suggested it to me in messages, and it's been a godsend. She loves it. I tuck her into it and call it her nest, and she's been sleeping so much better. There are still occasional wake-ups, but even then she usually asks to go back to her own bed once she calms down. We went from about 3 wake-ups a night to 1, and sometimes 0, which is insanely good. The baby is sleeping well too now. She sleeps with me, which I didn't want, but here we are, and I've done everything to make my bed safe for her, and I'm actually sleeping well now. She sleeps 6 to 8 hours in a row, lately sometimes even 10. We were still doing night feeds to try to help her gain weight, but the doctor said we can stop, and she can finally eat solids, so we're doing all of that too. Hopefully she'll chunk up now and get some baby rolls. She's already the chubbiest baby we've had in our family, which isn't saying much, and she's still the smallest among her baby yoga friends, but for her corrected age her weight isn't concerning at all. She's doing well. I was finally recovering from Easter. I don't know why it hit me so hard, and then it had to be Mother's Day, so somehow that was better than Easter. The 2 little ones made crafts for me at school and were honestly fine, just a few sad moments and some behavior stuff. The middle ones were worse, not because they said much but because they were acting weird, which I expected. The 17-year-old was fine and made me a card from the baby, which was adorable and made me laugh, because when I thanked her and told her how sweet it was she got super serious and said it wasn't from her, it was from the baby, you know, the baby who can't read or write and doesn't even know my name. Matt got me some little gifts too, and then it was my birthday and he got me more things. The kids were good on my birthday too. So you're telling me it would be fine if they were in the house just because those people happened to give birth to them? Anyway, I'm trying not to get too angry about it, and I'm not going to pressure someone who says they're not comfortable, but it's so unbelievably frustrating to deal with a sad kid when the reason isn't even a good reason. I asked her if there was another friend she wanted to invite and she said no, she only wants this one, which is just more heartbreak. And the 10-year-old recently came to sleep in my bed, which really surprised me because she never does that, but I assumed it was because of nightmares about our father kidnapping her. Then she was in a terrible mood and wouldn't speak to Matt at all the next day. It wasn't until that night that she finally broke down and told him she hadn't been talking to him because it made me cry. He didn't make me cry, but we had a small argument the day before, really nothing serious, we got over it quickly, and then I was crying about something completely unrelated. But she got out of bed and saw me, so she decided I was crying because of the argument. I felt awful. I'm trying not to argue in front of them now. In fact, we did have a big fight after that, because we were at the beach with the kids and I was in the car with the baby for 10 minutes getting snacks ready and changing her, and when I came back he was sitting on his phone while the kids were in the water, which I was 1000% not okay with, because what the hell, how exactly are you watching them? Obviously you're not, and even if you were, you'd just be watching them drown, because there's no way you'd get to them in time if a current pulled them or something. We'd also told them they weren't going swimming because it was cold and we didn't have towels or whatever, since it was a spontaneous stop because they wanted to build a sandcastle after watching some sand art video. Apparently Matt thinks it's fine because they can swim and they know not to go past their height. Yeah, sure, if you trust kids that age to stick to those rules you're in for a surprise, because those kids do not give two shits about what you tell them. And then the 14-year-old woke up and chose violence. Today has been a nightmare. I punished her because she was ignoring her older sister, ignoring me, and being an idiot with the little one while the little one was in timeout, but that's another story. Then she wouldn't stop messaging me like, why isn't this fair? I can't be grounded, I have plans, I didn't do anything wrong, blah blah blah. I thought I'd explained the situation perfectly clearly and told her what needed to happen and that we could try again after apologies and so on, and she told me to fuck off, so I'm done being nice. You don't negotiate with terrorists, that's Maddie's and my motto, and sometimes I'm so tempted to negotiate with the terrorists just to see if they'll stop, but I try to hold the line. Maddie did bedtime and I relaxed with my perfect angel baby who doesn't talk back. She's asleep, but I'm still awake, because I was about to make a list of everything that's stressing me out. So that's my stressful life. Hope you enjoyed it, in quotation marks. My older sister is desperate to come visit us and I honestly have zero desire for that, but it feels like she's decided it's happening anyway, and I'm going to have to be the bad guy again and say okay, but you can't stay with us, and she's not going to like that. Ugh. Pray for me. Update 24, the situation with the 10-year-old and her friend whose parents don't want them hanging out because there's no mom and dad in the house has apparently gotten worse. This girl had another friend over for a playdate, so my 10-year-old was extremely sad because she wasn't invited. Now she's deeply worried that the other two girls are going to become better friends with each other than with her, since she can only see them at school. Poor thing had a full meltdown a couple of nights ago, crying uncontrollably and saying she just wants mom to come back and asking me to call her, which obviously is because she's panicking about her friendship situation. On a normal day she would never want to see our mother. I don't know what to do about it. I want to invite the other girl over or try to set up a playdate at the park, but I'm also scared the same thing will happen if their parents are friends with the other parents. The girl does have other friends and plays at the park with some kids who live nearby, but she really just wants her best friend to be able to come over after school. She says her friend is now saying things like, where are your mom and dad, why can't they come back so my mom will let me go, etc. So the 10-year-old has been coming home repeating all of this and asking way more questions than usual, saying she's scared she won't be able to go to her friends' birthdays, and she's in a full spiral worrying about everything she might be excluded from, and it's breaking my heart. I don't think she'll be excluded from everything. I think the parents just don't want their daughters in our house because they obviously think we're a messed up family, and they don't want ours in their house either because it would be awkward when they won't allow theirs to come to ours. That's my suspicion. The other girl's mother doesn't seem like someone you can reason with, and I don't get the sense she's going to change her mind. She seems stubborn. I don't know about the second girl's mother, maybe I'll try to find her and talk to her at pickup. I spoke to her teacher and she basically said there's not much she can do unless there's a problem at school, but she'll think about it if she can. It's strange, but this issue feels very different from other problems with the kids. We've dealt with much worse things, but this feels really hard. We were told the 8-year-old might need a feeding tube if she doesn't start gaining weight, and I feel completely fucked because right now I'm more worried about the 10-year-old's friend situation than the 8-year-old, because having a visibly heartbroken child in front of me affects me more, while the 8-year-old genuinely doesn't seem to care, but it makes me feel awful either way. I can't wait for winter break, I just want everyone home and to not deal with anyone else. Update 25, winter holidays have started here for the younger kids, which means a much-needed break from the school drama with the 10-year-old. We're going to try to organize playdates with other kids when school starts again. For now she's happy at home watching movies and playing with the kids around here. We're going to put her back into therapy. She went before and they basically told us she was doing quite well and probably didn't need it, so we stopped, and now a lot of things have come up, so I think she does need it. The baby is also fine, sleeping pretty well, but I genuinely don't understand how it's possible that she's happy in her cot during the day but at night only wants to be in my bed, like it makes no sense, but whatever she wants. She's tried lots of foods and likes most of what I give her, but still loves her milk above all else. I feel like she'll talk soon because this child makes so much noise, she's literally always babbling and sometimes tries to sing. The 17-year-old confuses me so much, like this girl spent basically the whole year hitting the younger kids, and now suddenly she's the 8-year-old's best friend and they spend loads of time together. My 8-year-old, who's obsessed with me and Maddie, now has a new best friend. I'm not complaining, it's a mini break for us, but it's still weird. On the other hand, this girl who's usually very good about saying what she's doing and where she's going now apparently thinks she can do whatever she wants without telling us. She said she was going to a friend's house, then around 10 p.m. I texted her to say I was coming to pick her up and she was like no, don't come, so I said yes, of course, you're not walking back in the dark, so I'm coming. She was being weird and I tried to call her, no answer, even though she was clearly testing me. I told Matt to call her and she answered him straight away. It will never stop being the most annoying thing in the world that all 3 teenagers think it's fine to ignore me, but the moment Matt gets involved they're like yes sir. He hears that she's at a party, which is so stupid because we literally wouldn't care if she wanted to go to a party, I'd buy her some drinks, but when she tries to keep it secret I get angry. She gave in and told him where to pick her up much faster than she would have if she'd been talking to me. He told her it would have been fine if she'd just told us, and she said she doesn't have to tell us everything. And he was like where you are at night is basic information. He has zero tolerance for that stuff and basically bored her to death talking about it until she was like okay, I'll tell you, and then started with put a tracker on me if you want, I don't care, stalk me if you want. Like, I don't want to stalk her 24/7, but knowing where she is at night would be nice. Anyway, she went back to normal after that, letting me tell her when to go to bed every night. Every night I'm like do I say something or not? I almost don't bother and then I do and she acts like I'm annoying, but she goes to sleep. She's going to look for a weekend job to pay for a gym membership because she's in full health and aesthetics mode. Matt will do 1 shift and we'll pay half of the gym as well so she'll have extra money. Matt said he'll go with her, which made her really happy because she was scared of not understanding the machines and embarrassing herself. She's turning 18 soon and I don't know what to do with that because it's not going to change anything. It's not like she has 1,000 rules or anything, but she thinks they'll be lifted. She caught Matt, my older sister, and me sitting outside late the other day after everyone had gone to bed and she was angry because we hadn't invited her to our meeting, and we were like it's not a meeting, we're just relaxing, sit down if you want. Apparently we need to pretend we have meetings and invite her so she feels part of the club, but there is no club. It's just Maddie trying to stop my older sister and me from punching each other in the face, joking, sort of. My older sister is coming to visit when the kids go back to school because I said don't even think about coming during the holidays because you won't see me. I'm pretty stressed about it but also a little excited to see her, because she was literally my mom my whole childhood, so I miss her in some way even though she's a bitch. I hope she's okay and not too intense and that we can actually have a nice time together. I'm going to wait and see her before deciding whether the kids should see her or not. I'm leaning towards no, and if you saw her texts with the 14-year-old when I posted them you know why, but I don't want to say 100% no yet, we'll see. Either way we already have loads of drama with the kids, so I'll be exhausted when she arrives and her emotional drama won't help. My mother is back at my grandmother's house again. My grandmother called and asked about the kids and was being fairly nice, then asked for photos and I said no as always, and then she got really nasty and said I'm basically horrible for not letting her see her grandchildren, even though she made no effort to see them when we lived in the same damn town. She almost made me feel incredibly guilty and awful. Then I heard my mother in the background and my grandmother said no, that's your aunt, as if I wouldn't recognize the sound of my own mother. My mother hung up the call. Sorry, the baby hung up on you. Have a good day.